Hi. Give me 1 second. There we go. Hi, everybody. This is Audra coming at you from Studio Blue for our foam rolling class today. We will need a foam roller as well as a couple of either lacrosse balls, tennis balls, pinky balls, or if you don't have that, you can kind of MacGyver something by like rolling up a tube sock on itself. We're just going to use it for a little bit of pec, upper trap, and release at our occipitals. So you can always opt out of it. And in fact, feel free to opt out of anything that doesn't feel right for you. And especially with foam roller stretching, it is kind of choose your own adventure a little bit because everybody's body is different. And you might find that something feels very different for you and you're like, oh, this is what I need. And that's fine, okay? So we're going to get started with the lacrosse balls, pinky balls, or tennis balls. If you only have one, it's fine. Just do one side and then the other. We're going to start by placing them at the bottom of our skull, the top of our occipital muscles. So they're gonna kind of reside here. And if you are like, oh man, they're just kind of sliding away from me, you can either just use your hands to hold them in place, or if you have a tube sock, you can slide them in the tube sock and create a little peanut shape. Whatever feels best for you is what I want you to do. But we're gonna start with them right below and just kind of at the skull, just at the top of those muscles. So these capitis muscles, and we're just gonna nod your chin a little bit and then relax. We're not necessarily brushing our nose up, we're just coming to neutral and then looking down. It's okay if you create that double chin effect. Nobody's watching. Brush your nose up and back down. So a lot of times, if we are sitting awkwardly with our shoulders kind of rolling forward in that hunched position, our neck muscles wind up getting overworked because our brain is really smart and it wants to hold our face forward, right? So if our thoracic spine is in a flexed position, it creates an environment where our cervical spine has to overly extend to create that position of our head. Now you can gently look to one side and then maybe the other. Don't do anything that feels bad. Just kind of explore the region, see what feels good. You can take your nose in a little circle and then the other direction. Make sure you're breathing in as soft a relaxing style as possible. So if you get to a spot where it makes you want to hold your breath, big inhale and then even bigger exhale. So we'll inhale for 3 counts and then exhale for 6 counts. Just a couple more breaths here, just allowing yourself to melt onto the balls. And then we're just going to take them and slide them down a little lower. So you're actually going to bring them to your upper trapezius. I'll show you without the hoodie. So we want them on kind of the meatier part, not the bony part. So if you have them on your shoulder blade, that's not going to feel very comfortable. So bring it up above the shoulder blade, kind of on that spot that tends to get really tense if our shoulders are elevated for extended periods of time. So find that spot that makes you go, oh, yep. Once again, this should be relatively nice. We don't want to punish our body. It's more about just allowing the muscles to relax, kind of like a deep tissue massage. Now just take your nose to one side, keeping that opposite shoulder nice and heavy, and then other side. Just back and forth a couple times, noticing when that muscle wants to kind of tense, and then encourage it. Hey buddy, maybe you can relax a little bit. Couple more. Nice, gentle, encouraging breath. We're not trying to force range, we're trying to allow range of motion. Last one, each side. Now go ahead, relax your shoulders as much as possible. You can have your hands on your hips, you can have them on the ground, palms can be up. Bring your weight onto your feet and just press into the floor, lifting your hips a tiny, tiny bit. You do not need to go into a full bridge. It's just to increase a little bit of the pressure that you have on the balls. So bring your hips back down, make sure that they're on the meatier part rather than the bonier part, and then just press, squeeze, teeny little lift, and back down. You can always opt out of the lift, or if it feels better to stay there and just kind of move and apply pressure from different positions, that's fine too. Couple breaths here. Now bring your hips down to start. Allow your arms to brush overhead. Try to allow your armpits to open, shoulder blades draw down and around your back. And then bring your arms back in front of your eye line. And then back. And notice how as you move your arms, you probably feel that tension just a little differently. Now, if this is where you are, great. Otherwise, you can lift your hips and get a little bit more excitement that way. Keep breathing with intention, right? So we inhale, exhale, and then inhale, and then exhale. As you exhale, try to relax any tension out of your body. Last one. Bring your arms down, hips come down. We're actually going to move the balls a little bit lower. So they should be about bottom tips to midpoint of your scapula, not on your spine, still just on like the fleshier part of your back, hands behind your head. Now, you can always put your foam roller here instead and think about widening your shoulder blades to start and then just let your head be nice and heavy. Notice if you're trying to get the range from your lower back rather than that thoracic. And then just sink your ribs down and you can move your hips a little. So we're just trying to explore our thoracic spine and see where there's a little bit of restriction and see if we can encourage it to go into extension with ease rather than force. Give me just a couple more here. Anytime we're in a flexed position for extended periods of time, and then you can move down a vertebra and try again, it becomes a little bit harder to extend, right? So if you're on your computer a lot, on your phone, driving, it can create that forward head posture. And we just want to encourage the spine to be able to go the opposite direction just a little bit. Now, if you want, you can move a little bit more. Don't take them just onto your ribs. right? Your floating ribs, we still want to keep the mid scapula to lower scapula. 2 more. Last one, just hang out and breathe. You can rock from side to side if that feels good. Couple more breaths. And then sink your ribs down to allow yourself to come up. Hands can come behind your thighs to roll you up. We're gonna get our pec muscle a little bit, and it's a little bit awkward. You can always do this against a wall instead, but our pec muscle runs here, right? And if it's tight, it can cause that shoulder to be here, right? So we're gonna try to release it. Whether you're against the wall or on the floor, allow yourself to kind of go into an external rotation through your upper arm bone. So I'm only gonna use 1 ball and I'm gonna roll here. Using your hand, your opposite hand for support, just let yourself find a spot that makes you go, oh, yeah, that's fun. And then you hang out and breathe. You can always bend the knee. Allow yourself to come into a comfortable position. And as you exhale, try to encourage the muscle to relax. As you inhale, allow it to inflate like an overly inflated balloon. And then as you exhale, let it get floppy, like all the air has come out of it. Couple more breaths. You can move your arms slightly. And if this isn't feeling great, do it against the wall instead so you don't have to fight against gravity. Now just take your arm and feel free to bend it. So I'm actually taking my arm from this position to a little goal post, right? So if I'm internally rotating, the elbow comes up. Think about the elbow wrapping forward, scapula wrapping forward. If that doesn't feel right, do I want you to do it? No, the answer is no. And just hang out and breathe. And just notice what your body is saying. If it's saying, ouch, ouch, this might be an indicator that this muscle is real tight and should be addressed on a regular basis. Couple more breaths. Feel free to explore the region if you like. If you don't want to and you found a spot and you're like, this is good, this is where I am today, that's great, totally fine. Couple more breaths. Trying to inflate the region and deflate it. Allow the muscle to relax around the ball. And then we get to do the other side. Now the good news is the other side might not feel as bad. The bad news is it might be your exciting side. So once again, try to let yourself start out of the internal rotation. So we want to find a little bit more external rotation, and then you can relax the arm down and just notice where it feels exciting, right? It might be a slightly different range. It might be the same place. I'm going to face the opposite direction. So I can see you. Yeah. So allow your head to just be gently rested, whether it's on your hand, on a pillow, whatever feels good. And if that shoulder that's attached to the ball starts creeping up to your ear, see if you can slide it away. And just breathe and hang out. Sometimes the hardest part is finding stillness, right? It's easy to kind of move and be like, okay, I'm done. But finding that moment of stillness and relaxation, as opposed to our nervous system just trying to fight and get out of it, is challenging. And then feel free to bend that arm into your goalpost. So once again, it's going to be here, still relaxing onto that ball. Feel free to move a little bit if you kind of lost the excitement, and just breathe. We're going to hang out here for a few more seconds, a few more gentle breaths. This is one of those muscles that I know I should roll out and stretch every day, but I then come up with any reason possible to not do it. Same with my hip flexors. So this is another do as I say, not as I do kind of situation. One more breath. And gently come out of it. We're now going to use our foam roller to address our lats. So our latissimus dorsi actually goes all the way from our lower back, like to our ilium, all the way to the front of our shoulder. So it can be implicated in upper back or lower back issues or shoulder issues. So we're actually going to bring this into our armpit. Support your head with your hand. If you need less intensity, elbow down, more intensity, elbow up. And we're just going to rock back and forth a couple times until we find a spot that makes you go, mm-hmm. Now, it might be your lat. It might not. That's okay, right? So if you're like, well, I'm finding a spot, but it's not my lat, that's fine. Maybe part of your rotator cuff is a little tight and overworked. Do whatever feels best for you and your body today. So once we find a spot that makes you go, yep, that's the exciting part. We're just going to hold and breathe. Just notice if you start tensing to hold yourself in space. If you do, try to relax. Let your head be nice and supported. Trying not to brace through your neck or your shoulders. And as you breathe, allow your muscles to melt. They're going to take the form and the shape of the roller. And then if you're like, okay, that was great, I'm going to find another spot, that's fine too. Now we can move through this a little bit. So if it feels okay for your neck, you can take that arm away. If you want to, you can support it with your other arm, reach the hand forward, and you can bring it up, externally rotating slightly as it comes up. So because the lat can internally rotate the humeral head, when we stretch, right, we're externally rotating to get a little bit more length. If you want more stretch, tuck your tailbone toward your face just a little bit, and that takes the origin and insertion points farther away from each other, so you get a little bit more stretch. Couple more breaths here. Then bring that elbow down, hand comes to the head, and we're gonna rotate some. So now letting that thoracic spine, your rib cage, rotate around your spine. So your rib cage is gonna rotate, 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 reaching your hand forward, and then let it rotate, rotate, rotate back. Now, if you're at the end of your foam roller, get a little closer to the center. Or if it's a really short foam roller, get closer to the front, because I don't want you to feel like you're gonna fall off your foam roller, because that will actually defeat the point of this, right? Because then you start tensing to hold yourself up. So as you rotate, eventually your hips will move, that's okay. But I want you to try to let that rib cage rotate first without arching. Just let it move freely like a doorknob. And then at the end, that pelvis can move with you. Couple more, trying to initiate the rotation through the thoracic. Our thoracic spine, our rib cage portion of our spine, should be relatively mobile, right? It should be able to flex, extend, go side to side, and rotate, especially when we're walking, is when that rotation especially should be occurring. But unfortunately, a lot of times we get locked up, and then our lower back does extra rotation to try to get that thoracic, or to like compensate for the thoracic spine. So while we're not having to think about it too much, we're just allowing that rotation to happen. And let's do that other side. So go ahead, help yourself up, and we get to do the other side. I'm just gonna bring it over here. And once again, just explore that area. So for example, on this side, I immediately found a spot that was very, very exciting, right? So I'm just gonna hang out and hold. If you did not find a spot that was exciting, move around a little bit until you find one. And then of course you can lift that elbow if you want more intensity. If you don't need it, you don't have to use it. Just breathe. So when you're trying to find a relaxing breath, thinking of letting that breath lower, right? So your diaphragm is gonna lower. Think about almost breathing into your pelvis and into your back and into the sides of your ribs. So pelvis first, back second, sides of your ribs, and then eventually belly and sternum, right? So your whole like rib cage, your whole lung capacity is reached. You can roll if you want. And then you exhale for double that amount of time. So it's inhaling 1 and then exhaling 2, right? So if you inhale for 3 or 4 counts, exhale for 6 or 8, and it will help your nervous system relax. Especially, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but if you make a relaxed like sound, it actually cues your nervous system into being into a relaxed state. Now, if you're ready for it, you can bring that arm and externally rotate. Feel free to support your head with your other hand if you need to. If you don't have to. Just a few more. Hopefully this is the good kind of exciting for you. Once again, you can always, always, always move a little bit to make that more effective, right? But the point of foam rolling isn't to like destroy your muscles or crush up any like adhesions. It's to hydrate your tissue. It's to increase blood flow. And that cues your body into going to like the region and taking care of adhesions for you, right? 2 more. And come back. And now we rotate. Now reach, reach, reach it forward. And then roll it back. Support your head. And just kind of notice if you have a spot that makes you kind of stop. And then you can reach. And keep going. Feel free to adjust your foam roller if it's not working for you for any reason. Breathing deeply. Allowing yourself to initiate from the rib cage. If you find a bony stop, instead of trying to force it, go just inhale, exhale. Let your nervous system feel safe, and it will start to allow you to have that range of motion. I mean, just a couple more here. And one more. Now go ahead and just allow yourself to have your bottom ribs on the foam roller. We're doing a little bit more upper back extension. So first, just start with the lower ribs. Find your abs so we're not just collapsing. Lengthen through the crown of your head. Nod your chin slightly. And just find where that moment of that's it is. And that's okay. If your tailbone got really heavy, think about curling it towards you just a little and then come out of it. One more like this. And then slide your hips away from your foam roller just a little bit. And again, notice how just that half an inch changed that extension, right? Couple more. Bring it up, slide your hips halfway away, and again. Last one. Go ahead, bring your hands down. We're gonna bring yourselves up. So we're gonna address our inner thighs a little bit. So inner thighs can cause knee internal rotation, adduction, but most of our inner thighs also double as hip flexors. Is your mind blown? So we're gonna address the inner thighs a little bit. And this is kind of an awkward position to get into, so bear with me. You're going to bring one knee over your foam roller, come down onto your forearms. Now you can either allow the other leg to be bent, or you can try to bring it into a frog position. If the frog position does not feel great, slide the leg away from you. So first, we're just gonna find a little bit of rolling closer to the knee, but not on the joint. And just kind of slide up and down a couple times, see how that feels. Now when you're like, okay, great, got it, that feels fine, you can try extending that leg as long as it doesn't feel bad on the knee. If you're in the frog position and you extend the leg and you're like, ooh, I feel that, go ahead, extend the other leg out so you're not in as big of a stretch. And then you can internally rotate and bring it back. So you're just letting your thigh point down and then relax. And then you can bring it point down and relax. Just a few more. And then slide a little closer to your foam roller. So it's sliding up the belly of that muscle. Feel free to internally rotate and then relax. Once again, feel free to slide that other leg out. Couple more here. And then slide a little closer to your foam roller. And you can always bend the knee. Always, always, always feel free to bend the knee. And you can start kind of moving yourself a little bit with it, right? So you rotate, relax, see about taking a little bit of the foam roller to the back of that inner thigh. So our adductor magnus is the only inner thigh muscle we have that wraps around the back. So if you just rock a teeny, teeny bit, you can get there. Once again, don't do anything that feels bad or potentially tricky for your body, right? You can keep this knee bent, you can extend that other leg, no problem. I still feel a lot of inner thigh with this knee bent, okay? Then you can slide a little closer. And breathe. If you start feeling this in your shoulders, you are welcome to bring your head to your hands. And a little closer. Again, that knee can be bent, or that leg can be extended. It's up to you and your body. Maybe a couple more. And then, of course, we get to do the other side. So just be aware that one side might feel vastly different than the other. So be gentle getting into it. Don't just go for the gold, right? So we're starting with it being a little bit closer to the knee, but once again, not on the joint, right? So you can 100% be here, or you can 100% be in your frog position. And just kind of feel if it's exciting, right? Maybe you straighten the leg. Maybe that's too much. And just kind of roll a little bit on along the muscle. And if you find a spot, hold and breathe. That's the key. I don't know about for you, but for me, this is very exciting. And you can internally rotate and rock it back. Once again, that other leg can be extended behind you. And of course, this knee can be bent, right? And you don't have to force it into a huge internal rotation. Just kind of see what your body wants today. And if you go, oh, my body just wants to get out of this, go to a slightly easier position for yourself, okay? We don't have to do this at 100 in order for it to be effective, right? Sometimes, if our body is fighting something, taking it down to 50% is actually going to be way more effective for you, right? That's okay. So we're still internally rotating, and then we are finding that little bit of adductor magnus. Once again, you can internally rotate. And it might be that bending the knee is way more intense than letting the leg be straight. Slide up a little bit, see what feels right for you. A few more here. And once again, of course, you can bring your head to your hands. Almost there. Two more breaths. Last set. Don't force any of these ranges, right? If you need to, you can always keep the knee on the ground. Last one. Go ahead, help yourself out of there. And we're going to use the foam roller to get our vastus lateralis. So our quadriceps have 4 parts, and oftentimes this outer one gets really tight and can pull on the knee. One of the reasons is this TFL. Don't worry, we're going to address that too. But we're going to start with the foam roller. So when we come down to the knee, don't have it on the patella, have it right above the joint. So go ahead and actually come onto the TFL, the top part. So the TFL is the originator of your IT band. If you're like, where is it? I don't know where it is. If you find your hip bone and it's down an inch and back an inch, it's this muscle. It's kind of in line with your upper third glute, right? So feel free to use both hands. Roll yourself forward, roll yourself back. You can internally rotate and then externally rotate to relax. If you're like, that's nice and all, but I really want to dig into that TFL, you are welcome to take a second and use the ball. Feel free to support yourself with the foam roller, right? So if this, with the ball in that area, feels better or more effective for you, that is fine. You are 100% welcome to do that. It can also be real intense. And we're about to roll down our thigh. So your choice. Couple more here. And now just use your armpit to let yourself roll down a little. Now, if you wind up on the greater trochanter and you're like, man, this just hurts, it feels like bone. You're on bone, move the foam roller. You can move this leg forward if that feels better, but we're internally rotating and then externally rotating just a little bit to kind of feel where that spot is. And then when you find a spot that makes you go, yep, hang out and breathe. If you have a soft foam roller, I'm really envious. And then you can roll down a little farther, hang out and breathe. Couple slow breaths can start to allow those Golgi tendon organs to start overriding the muscle spindle. So you might feel a moment where everything kind of is like, what are we about to do? And then it relaxes. That's when you can move on, sliding on down, couple breaths. The more you focus on your breath, the faster that can happen. So the less you have to hold it for extended periods of time. You can also squeeze the muscle, inhale, and then exhale, relax. And then we roll down a little bit more. And you can squeeze the muscle, inhale, exhale, relax the muscle, and just hang out. Once again, this might not be where you feel an exciting amount of work and tension and excitement, and that's great. Feel free to go down a little bit more. You're being your own personal Magellan here, a little bit of exploration. Just once again, don't go down to the kneecap. Couple more breaths. Holy smokes. This is an indicator that I should do this more often because I'm trembling. And then you can start rolling forward and back just a little bit. Once again, find that area and breathe. And start to roll down. You can go forward and back a little, just kind of see what's exciting. And then we get to go on to the other side. So we're gonna start up nice and high on that TFL. Once again, you are welcome, welcome, welcome. Instead of being on your foam roller, if you're like, I just need a little bit more, that's okay. You can always use the ball in the TFL, support yourself on the foam roller. You can internally and externally rotate. You can just hang out. You can breathe and hold. Just allow everything to relax as much as you possibly can. You can even do little tuck and releases to make sure that your TFL isn't trying to move your pelvis for you. Feel free to internally and externally rotate. And in just a second, we're going to move the foam roller down the leg. So once again, if you find your greater trochanter, which is the widest bony part of your leg, and you're like, ow, that feels like bone, move it. That's like staying on bone isn't actually going to help you relax. It's not going to help your muscles. So feel free just to avoid that spot entirely. And you can just roll forward and back or internally and externally rotate. Just see if there's a spot. Maybe the same spot that you had on the other side is different, and that's okay. Yep, so I had to go down a little farther, and here it is. And breathe. And allow that area to relax, get floppy. So one reason we kind of have to hold stretches or spots with the foam roller or the ball is there's this really kind of complicated mechanism called autogenic inhibition. Don't worry, there's not going to be a quiz. Feel free to roll down a little bit if you want. But basically there are two parts of your muscle, the muscle spindles and your GTOs, Golgi tendon organs. And they're like the overly protective parents who's like, no, you can't go out unless I'm with you. And then you've got your cool parents who are like, no, 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 it's fine. You can stay out until midnight, it's fine. And they have to negotiate that like 10 o'clock curfew. And then slide down. And so that's what the holding is. It's just getting that curfew, that like negotiation between the two. And just kind of see how this feels in comparison to the other side. Making sure not to apply pressure directly onto the joint. Breathe. Especially if you find a spot that makes you want to tense. It's okay, let the tense happen with intention. And then exhale, relax with intention. And then you can roll forward and back. Do what feels right for you and your body today. There's zero judgment. A few more. And keep in mind, we don't have to get the muscle to 100% relax right now. Even if it only becomes 20% more relaxed, 30% more relaxed, that's 20 or 30% more relaxed than it was before. And you can take it all the way down. Now we have some options. We're going to get a little bit of glute rolling out. So you can either use the foam roller, trying to get around my mic cord. So you can either use the foam roller, sit on the foam roller, and come into a figure 4 and roll onto that same side glute. Or if you want more intensity, you can always do this on the ball. If you are holding your leg and kind of pulling, don't just pull on the foot. That puts a lot of pressure on your ankle joint. Actually hold on to your shin. And you can just roll and breathe. If you want to explore and see if crossing the leg more is a different stretch that feels better, do that. Maybe a few more breaths. One of my lacrosse balls rolled away. So in just a second, when we get to our hip flexor, I'm gonna have to jump up and get to it. So just a warning, you don't need to jump up and run with me. A few more breaths as you just kind of explore that glute. Try the figure 4 versus, the full cross, and see what feels more exciting to you and your body today. And then we get to do the other side. So once again, feel free to bring the foot closer to you, but try to do it from your shin bone rather than your foot. And you can roll onto the side that's crossed, right? So it's like the knee is an arrow and you just roll the direction that the arrow is pointing. And you can bring the leg across, see if that feels different in a more effective way. If it does, great, do that. If it doesn't, come back. And just keep going. I'm going to go fetch my ball while you take a couple more breaths in that position. 2 more breaths. I missed you. And last one. Good. Go ahead, come off of there. We're going to put this where our hip flexor is. If you have access to a yoga block, you can put it on top of the yoga block and it'll get a little bit deeper in there. If you don't, that's okay too. So find your hip bone and it's going to be in this region, right? So if you're like, what? If you think about pulling your knee toward your face, that's the area that we're trying to find with the ball. So it's also the region where if you hip hinge, that's where that fold happens, okay? If it doesn't feel great, you don't have to do it. We're gonna come down, let the leg be straight to start, and then you can bend the knee if it feels right. And you can just internally and externally rotate the leg until you find a spot. Maybe you find several spots. Maybe you find no spots. And that's okay. If you're like, I don't really feel any excitement, but man, my glutes, go back to the glutes. Or go back to the TFL, right? We're gonna allow the thigh to internally and externally rotate. And then you can bend the knee. Bending the knee lengthens that rectus femoris and shortens our hamstrings, right? So if as you bend the knee, you go, oh, that's so intense. That's okay, that's why we're trying it. You can internally and externally rotate a little if you want. A few more breaths here. If all of a sudden, as soon as you bend the knee, you feel a lot of pull in your lower back, that might be your psoas, right? So just think about those abs lifting you up a bit. A few more breaths. And then we get to do the other side. Relaxing out of your neck and shoulders as much as possible. And then other side. So just be aware, once again, where you felt it on the other side might not be where you feel it on this side, and that's okay. Find the spot, we're gonna hold that spot, but then we can move through a little bit of range of motion to just intensify the stretch and the tension in the muscle, right? Still trying to use your abs to hug in and up so they're not just letting you collapse out of them, especially as that knee bends. Couple more breaths. Last one. Just find the spot that's the most intense there and breathe, 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 and gently come out of it. Now we're gonna get a little hip flexor stretch. So feel free, if you like a little bit of support, to use your foam roller. Slide one foot out. Now, if your knee is really tender, feel free to grab a gardening pad or a pillow or something and put under it. Now, our psoas goes from our lower back to our lesser trochanter, so it goes to our thigh. So if, when you come into this stretch, your hip bones try to dive forward and your back arches, it just is shortening the distance between your origin and insertion points. It's not bad, it's just kind of taking you out of the stretch a little bit. So shorten the distance between your ribs and your hips by lengthening your tailbone down, squeeze your glute. You might already feel a stretch here. Inhale. Exhale, just let that knee glide forward just a little bit. This might be your whole stretch. That's okay. You can keep one hand here. You can bring both hands to your thigh. You can rotate towards that knee and hold and breathe. Now press your foot gently from here down into the floor for 5, 4, 3, 2, inhale. Exhale, relax. See if you can get just a little bit more stretch. And you can also take that arm up and over, see how that feels. Couple more breaths here for 5, 4, 3, 2, push this foot into the ground to push you back. We get to do the other side. So once again, make sure that your tailbone isn't sticking back. You're curling it under, you're dialing your hips back, you're lengthening through your lower back, and then squeeze that glute. And just see how this feels. I already feel a stretch, and I'm not even having my pelvis go forward. So big inhale, big exhale. See about leading with your pubic bone and your knee rather than your hip bones, right? And you can use this hand, you can rotate towards it, whatever feels best for you and your body today. Now gently push that foot into the floor for 5, 4, 3, 2, big inhale, big exhale, relax. See if you can get just a teeny bit more stretch. Hand can come up and over. You can either keep holding on to the foam roller or use that other hand to get even more stretch. And we're gonna hang out for a few seconds. 5 breaths. 4. 3. 2 more. And 1. Push into that front foot to come out. And for our last couple minutes, we're actually going to lie down on the foam roller. This should feel good, not bad. If you feel really wobbly on the foam roller, you are welcome to put a hand weight on each side. Just make sure your head and tail are supported. Fingertips come up to the sky. Arm bones relax down. Allow your palms to face the sky. Reaching your fingers away from you. Getting that nice stretch through your pecs, right? We rolled them out, now we're just getting a gentle stretch. Now think about reaching one of your fingertips, like your right fingertips away from you, and then take your nose to the left and breathe. Think about kind of hugging that armpit around your ribs, reaching your fingertips away from the midline of your body. Come back to center, other side, reach it away. Notice how one side might feel different than the other. And then back and forth a couple times. Reach, and then reach. One more each direction. And then we're gonna take our fingertips to the sky with straight arms. So straight arms, arm bones down, palms face the knees, brush up and over. If your ribs lifted, it's not the end of the world. Just keep them gently connected down. Inhale, exhale. Imagine your hands just being filled with sand. One more, inhale, exhale, and then drag them down into your goalpost. Let your elbows be a little heavier than your hands. Now relax. Now let your fingertips be heavier than your elbows. And relax. Let your elbows be heavier. And then your fingertips be heavier. One more. Slide your arms overhead. Slide them back down. And one more. And then gently help yourself off your foam roller. Going ahead and coming up onto your knees if you like. We're just going to let one fingertip reach down, down, down. Let your ear drop down to the other shoulder. Come back, other side, pushing down. Head drops down to the other shoulder, getting a nice stretch. If you want, you can even apply a little bit of pressure, pinning the muscle before stretching the muscle. The old pin and stretch. And then back, pin the muscle before you stretch the muscle. Coming back to center, roll your shoulders up, down, and back. And thank you so much for joining me. I can't believe our hour's up already. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I hope you feel better than you did before class. Thank you so much. Yay, how do you guys feel? Thank you, Chloe. Oh, good, good, good. Yay. You guys are amazing. Oh, my top? I don't know. I'll check the brand and tell you next time. I think it's actually, I don't know, I've had it for a few years. Oh, thank you so much, Monica. Yay. You guys are amazing. Yeah, happy Sunday, everybody. It's nice and sunny out there. So if you're into sunniness, you know, it's a great day to like open your windows, get a nice breeze. Also, if any of you have pictures of your cat, dog, turtle, ferret, whatever kind of pets you have joining you for any of these classes, I want to see them. Straight up, I want to see them. All right, you guys, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you soon. Bye.